Okay, so this is part 2 of the VHS glitch tutorial. I'm hoping today just to basically show how you can take it to the next level, basically adding in different layers, more sort of visual overlays, some aberrations, some colours, basically how to take it from here, which is where we left it last time, to something more like this. We have loads of glows, some more flickering effects, some more kind of grain, basically more like this reference. I'm hoping to add in some of this more sort of frame buffering effects, where the entire frame buffers upwards. Some of the grey overlay, which kind of flickers on, then off again. Some of the chroma fringing. But yeah, so since last time I've added a few little bits. I've tweaked the sliders a bit, so it looks a bit more like what I'm after. The main change now is I've just added in this more extreme glitch here. So that's just with this eye distort. I'm just turning that on and off. And that's just being driven by this vector, which is in turn being multiplied by this flash effect. And the wave for this just looks like this. And yeah, I've basically just multiplied two noise waves together. Also done a gamma curve on it just so it's a bit random, a bit more random, has some more taper to it. So when it goes down darker, it's got more of a taper, tapers off quicker, and flashes on a bit more slower. But yeah, so I'll go through that later. But for now, what we've got is we've got the main text, which is being distorted. I'm going to add to the background a bit. I'm going to add a constant color underneath it, just so that we've got some grey rather than pure black. Hang on. I'll just put this up a little bit. I'm also going to add some texture to it. I think I'll add some scan lines like we did last time. I'm just going to add a wavelength slider. I'm going to the sine of the Y channel times wavelength. Something like that. Flood the channels and merge that over. I'm going to put it under the text. So that we get something like this. Maybe something a bit more sharp. Yeah, that will do. Okay. So, the first thing I'm going to do as well is I'm going to take our scan line, our static scan line, which looks like this. I'm just going to merge that over. Like so. Just mold that down a little bit, so it's not as strong. Cool, okay. I'm also going to take this texture. I'm going to take the texture of this noise and put this over the top as well. I'm going to mold that by a stretched version of the text as well. And maybe just gain that up. We're essentially using this as a matte, just to define where the noise is going to display. I'm going to clamp that, and I'm going to multiply that by our noise, which is here. Multiply down. Actually, I'll gamma down a bit as well, just so we get some more crunchiness. And I've just given it an alpha as well, taking the red channel. just so we start to obscure the text a little bit, more like an overlay, like that going over the top. And I'm just going to then pull down the opacity even more, something like that. Okay, let's also add our scan lines on top. So let's take from here, these are just our vertical scan lines, and let's merge that over. I'm going to gain it towards blue a little bit, more cyan, like that, and then just gain down, so it's pretty subtle. Going back to the reference, okay, let's add in some of these colour, some chroma effects. So we have here, okay, what have we got? So this is something I did last time actually, just to add some more variation. I'm going to take that. You can make this yourself. This is just the same noise thing, wave effect, and this is just another tighter wave effect, and I'll just multiply these together so that you get this effect. I've just added over this one too. You know what, I'll take it from here. So let's shuffle out our channels. And the point of this is to separate our red channels from our green. From our blue. So you notice that I'm not just taking the red channel and flooding it, because that's not the point. What I need to do is actually remove the other channels so that all I have is just the red channel, and then I can merge them all back together. I'll do the alpha as well, although that's not, let's not bother with that. Now that we've got these separated, I mean, in theory you can just do things per channel to get some chroma split. What I'm thinking is I can do some distortion per channel just to get some slight fringing. So I'm going to copy in our scan line, paste this on each one. Come on. Okay, so I'm currently distorting, so it looks like this, and we're copying our red channel in. So these eye distorts are doing this right now. So if I was to just change the eye distort of 1, we're going to get some fringing. So I'm going to do this. I'm going to really just push it far, just to get that chroma split, just like that. You can just globally affect the mult just by pushing this up. Push it negative if you want to. Push it positive actually. I think, no you can't. Okay, so I'm going to do a hue shift, and I'm just going to push it somewhere there maybe, just so we get some off standard RGB colours. Maybe put the mix down a little bit. just so we really mess up the colours. Cool. So before, after. I'm actually going to go ahead and mold the result of this by these curves. See what that does. It gives us this. It's pretty cool. So what I could do now is just grab this bunch of effects. And then just merge it over the original. Just like that. And I can put the malt down a bit. Mix, sorry. Okay, what I will do as well is I'm going to distort this one, this big one per channel as well. So I'll just grab all those. Plug this in here. The result of this should be the same now. Let's merge these together. Yes. That one with this one. And now I can just push these a little bit off, just so we get some fringing. Cool, perfect. Delete that and put that in here. Cool. So now we have colour from nothing, pretty much, and without having to manually choose colours to push in. Looks good to me. Let's add some sort of residual flicker as well. So I'm going to take a gain node. No, I'm going to get a color correct node, and we're going to want to basically just push up the midtones, just like this, just so we get some flicker in the highlights, in the mids. So I'm going to just build the sliders for this first. So we're going to have a speed, a multiplier, let's have a gamma, and have another speed. Just so we can have two curves. Speed 2. Okay, so let's go to our gain. Okay, so let's do a noise on the frame, times that by our speed, and this will make it flicker. So we look at our curve editor, and should be a result if I put the speed up. Or not. Oh, frame. Spelled wrong. Frame. Great, okay. So as before, we've got this curve which goes above and below 0. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to malt this just so we can expand it or compress it if we need to. So that's our curve and that's the speed. Just do a frame hold here just so we can easily check it. So at the moment we've got this. Let's put the malt up a bit. Speed up. Cool. Okay. So we don't want this to be constantly flickering. We're going to want to have some periodic dips in the curve. So what we can do is we can actually malt this with another curve. Now I'm going to build the second curve in the gamma just for now, just so it's easier to do on its own. So I'm going to do this. I'm going to copy and paste the same expression. Paste it in here. I'm also now going to actually set the frame, sorry, I'm going to add malt just so we set it above 0. You know what, I'm going to copy this, put it into a different node for now, just so we can see one curve. Cool. So now we have this, which has been set above 0, and if we push the mult up, it's pivoting from 0, like so. What I'm going to do is I'm going to actually leave it at 1 first. Let's put that at 0.5. I'm going to apply a gamma curve to it. So to do that, I'm going to wrap the whole thing in brackets. I'm going to write pow, which means raised to the power, and then comma, open brackets, 1 divided by gamma, close brackets, close brackets. So pow, open brackets, we'll be applying a gamma curve to this expression using this gamma number. So our gamma number comes from the slider. We're normalizing this before applying it. So now when we go to the gamma, which should be at 1. My bad. So there's actually a gamma curve, a slider already existing in this tool. So I'm going to rename it. Actually, our gamma has already been renamed automatically to gamma_1. I'm going to call this gamma wave, just so it's clear. Just refer to it in the expression as gamma wave. Boom. Okay. So now you can see our gamma curve is affecting this wave. So we're pushing down the toe, or pushing it up. In this case I'm going to push it down a bit. And now once I've done that, the theory is you don't really want to apply a gamma curve to anything above 1, because gamma mathematically only works for anything below 1. So you see if I push this higher, if I zoom out, if the gamma is 1, so default, but the high value that we're applying it to is actually above 1, when you gamma down you're going to end up squeezing the curve and pushing the highs even higher. So we don't really want that. So hence why I've left the mult at 0.5. So we do the gamma first, and then I'm going to apply our mult to this. So I'm going to replace this mult actually with 0.5, just so it's a constant. And then I'm going to add to the whole expression. I'm just going to put this all in brackets, multiply this by our mult, close brackets. So now we can multiply the entire curve up and also do our gamma correctly in the correct space. Cool. Okay. So this is curve number 1. We're going to mix this with curve number 2, which is the one we started with. So I'm just going to grab that, put that in brackets first, and multiply our gamma curve by this curve. So I can just, actually I'll put this, it's in the wrong one right now. I'm going to put this into gain and clear this one. Cool. So now we have, I'm going to change and use the different speed for this curve. I'm going to use speed 2, which should work, I think. Cool, okay. So we see how we're mixing two curves now. Now we haven't normalized this other curve, so I'm just going to, before we multiply it, I'm just going to add mult. I think that works. Yes. Cool. Okay, so we have now two curves. This curve here multiplying this curve here. So we get more spikes, more peaks. So if you view this now, you see it's less, it's more sporadic, it's less constant. We can change the speeds, the multiplies. Just to get something more natural. And you know what? I'm going to just take this and put it in the normal gain instead of doing it just in the highlights. You can see what that does now. So I'm going to want to use this flicker less as a multiplication to darken the image as well, more just to gain it up. So I'm just going to add 1 to this expression, wrap it all in brackets, and just add 1 at the end. This means that whatever happens, in theory, as long as the curve doesn't go negative, then we're only ever going to add brightness. Just like that. Perfect. Okay, that's too blue. What's going on? That's because my midtones are not normal. Okay, cool. You know what? Instead of applying it to the whole image, let's apply it to our scan lines. So I'm going to put that over here, not over there, and add it over here. So we have this. And I'm not going to add 1 instead. I'm going to leave it as just like that. And I'm going to tweak this effect a little bit. Looks a bit cheap, I think. The noise just looks a bit it looks like noise, I think. So I think the issue is actually it's too dark. Let's gain it up. Delete the alpha. I'm going to have it just plussing over. And I'm going to just make sure that it's as crunchy as possible. Okay, that looks better. Cool. And now we're getting these subtle colour glitches just here. I'm going to add some values to these because I think the more colourful they get, I feel like it would be great to have them pop brighter. So obviously the more distorted it gets, that means it's being driven by a higher value image. So all I need to do that is go to my vector here, and I can pretty much just mask this without image. Maybe just gain gamma down a bit, and now you'll see it's flickering, so that only when it distorts the most, in this scenario for example, you get these high values. So you've got you've got 5 there, gain down a bit, and merge this over. So when we add any optical treatments later, this will really help. For example, I mean, if you did a glow, just a cheap glow for now. Yeah. Just try some tolerance to it. You can really pop just those highlights. Cool. Okay, so going back to the reference, let's try and do some of that frame buffer effect. So for example here, where we have the whole frame just sort of like vibrating up and down. I'll delete that. So this is what I've got so far. Now I'm going to change the colours a little bit. I'm not a fan of that hue shifted chroma, so I'm going to delete that and maybe just gamma down a bit, just to make it a bit sharper. Crush it a bit, maybe. Yeah, that works for me. What I might do actually is distort vertically as well, just to get a more kind of full frame coverage of the effect. So I'm going to just plonk the red channel into the green as well. Sorry, into the V channel. And copy that into these. So that in theory, we should be able to multiply vertically too. So up there. Why is that not working? Oh, it is doing that. Cool, okay, yeah. So that's better. So you can see how it's now, it's not vertically aligned, it's skewing off the frame as well. I think I'm actually going to take the y-axis down a bit. My bad. Okay, that's why it didn't work. Let's put the green into there instead of the red. And I'm going to just melt the green down a bit so it's not as strong. Maybe like that. Put it vertically up there maybe. And it's being multiplied by here, so these, it will, you know what. Let's do that. Getting down a bit. So what I could do as well is I could just take this and multiply this by my noise up here. I'll do this as a hidden input just so it's not getting too dirty. Multiply. It's all about randomness, so just just trying to get something that looks pretty believable and not too extreme. So these kind of subtle flickers in the corner, that looks a lot better now. That's much better. Cool. Okay, so now that we have that, I'm going to make a transform node, and I'm going to go back again and make more sliders. So this is going to be a, we'll just have an amp slider, add a speed slider, add an offset slider. So we're going to want to basically bump it up and down. So on the y-axis we're going to just do let's do noise frame times speed, and see what happens with that. Put that to, I'm going to frame hold again, just so we're not rendering everything upstream. We don't need to just now. So we have this right now. I can multiply by the amp, and then just see what that does. Okay, so that looks good. We're going to want to again multiply it with another curve, because see how constant the effect is? We want these peaks, we want these high frequency peaks, but we want them to be multiplied by low frequency wave, so that they happen more rarely essentially. So it flickers fast up and then down again, doesn't happen again for maybe a second, and then up again. So I'm going to do the same thing again, make another speed 2 we'll call this, and have another another amp, sorry, well we'll call it mult for now, it's the same thing. Just if you're working on a wave, it might be easier to think of it as an amplitude. If you're working on a value stuff like brightness, it might be easier to think of it as a mult. It doesn't matter though. So that's our first curve, and because we're going up and down, it doesn't need to be pushed up to 0. It doesn't need to be offset, so the base is on 0 because we want it to go down as well. But we're going to need to do the same thing on that second curve. So I'm going to cut this and put it in the label for now, just so it's safe. And then I'm going to copy and paste it again. I'm going to use speed 2, and we're going to use what should we do? Let's times it by 0.5 and add 0.5, like previously. Close brackets. 0.5 plus 0.5. Yes, that's correct. So now we have hopefully a curve of some kind. Speed 2. Great. Okay, cool. So we can now spread this out and then multiply this curve without mult, like so. We can then multiply this curve with our other curve here. So cut that back. And multiply. So what we have now, in theory, what's going on? Oh, let's do some more gamma as well. Let's gamma down our main curve. So this one here, before we multiply it, I'm going to delete that for now. Let's open as power, put this in brackets, raise it to the power of 1 divided by our gamma, which we can make in a second. Close brackets. Actually, just make sure we close this bracket here. So we have our curve at the beginning closed. Let's add our gamma curve. Put this to 1. Cool. And now you can see that we're pulling down the toe of the curve so that it's more contrasty. So you'll get a more stuttery effect. When it's at 1, you're having a pure linear, essentially a pure linear curve. And we're now breaking linearity, so it's just the high peaks we're retaining. So let's play that. There you go, that's what we want. So let's mult this up. So we're having these fast high frequency vibrations, but they're separated by periods of time like this where nothing happens. So let's have it so that it amps up a lot. Let's put this to like 600, 800, 700. Gamma down even more. Cool, okay. Now I'm going to go back on what I said earlier about this this curve on the right. So our high frequency curve not needing to be offset. I think it would be good to have it just going in one direction, not going up and down. So I'm going to just add amp to here, and I think that should fix it. Great, okay, cool. And we could put a direction in here too, if you wanted to. Pull down choice, direction, up and down. Oops, up and down. Okay, so when it's up, it's 0. When it's down, it's 1. Okay. And let's just have our let's go ahead and in the case of it going up, we're going to add amp and in the case of it going down, we're going to minus amp, so it's going down like that. So let's go ahead and plus, and then inside these brackets is going to be the result of our if statement. So direction equals 0. In this case, we can just do direction, and that will resolve a 1 if the direction is 1. So direction, want to go down, which is minus, else plus amp, just amp. So that's one if statement, and that will give us either a 0 or a 1 based on the input of our direction, up, down. Perfect. Okay, so the next thing we want is we want to have a sort of in this case maybe like the bottom of the frame stretching upwards as it moves upwards. So I'm going to delete all this and I'm going to start this again. So we have our transform, which is buffering up and down correctly. When we get to the peak, I'm going to want to reveal some of these lines. So on my reference, on my original version, they're vertical, but I'm actually going to go and copy this one here and have some horizontal lines instead. So we've given it an alpha here, so that if I turn, I'm going to make sure that black outside is turned on. So essentially, when it moves up, we're going to be revealing something underneath it. So if I created a noise, just gamma right down, crunch it with the gain. So we have this effect. We can just animate it. So it's fairly fast. And then we can have, let's erode it, and let's go stretch it like this. And then let's gamma it down even more. And let's adjust it so we have something like that. And then we're going to just make a few of these. And we're going to just merge these into different channels. So we're going to put maybe this one's the first one, BR, and this is blue channel coming from the AR. So now we have different, we can now do different things essentially, and have a sort of more offset in colour and value. So we have that. Okay. I'm going to merge this underneath our comp. Merge that under. So when it goes up and it buffers upwards, revealing this effect. And what I'm also going to do is I'm going to have these colours being stretched as they're pushed up vertically. What I will do actually is stretch these longer so that they cover the whole thing. Great. Okay, cool. Can fake those up with some noise. And go back to the same noise that we made earlier. Right at the top. Up here somewhere. It's getting a bit messy, but oh well. I'm going to use another hidden connection. And we can multiply these together. So we get this kind of result, which I think is pretty cool. So we could also time our buffers with a gain as well. So we could gain up, maybe flash our whole comp with the same curve. So let's just grab that expression. Let's just do a dynamic link between this one. Let's drag this in. Instead, what I could do is just turn the mix down. So when it buffers upwards, it flashes it, like so. Cool. Delete the frame hold. Looks pretty cool. I'm going to adjust the oscillating frame here. I am going to add one to that. Turn down the lot a bit. Cool. And I'll crop here. So we could just add some overall colour to this. So if we took a frame like this and just let's do a huge blur. Let's just do a clamp and make sure our highest values aren't too high. Let's clamp to like 5. Let's blur and mult this by our comp. And we'll just add maybe like 0.8, 0.9. So we're adding in this residual colour. So we get a nice flash when it buffers up. Cool, I'm going to leave it here and come back a bit later and we can do some more optical distortion-y effects and yeah, see what happens.